And our featured artist today is Dan Sheehan. Dan Sheehan is an amazing singer-songwriter. I've worked with him before with a performance that is a theater performance that is a musical in a way that talks a lot about the effect of greed on planet Earth, all across the planet, in the various countries and the various parts of the world where we're hoping things can happen for the betterment of people, but we see that thing called greed that's just standing in the way. And we see it right now in the middle of the affair that we're in. We can see greed standing in the way of some positive things that should, coulda, shoulda, woulda happened by now. Dan's whole performance talks about that, but in a very musical way. Some really beautiful music that he wrote, and then he's been performing just many places over the decades at so many different concert halls and touring the world with his music. He's a very special artist. I had a great pleasure working with him with the Tales from the Earth Incorporated project, which, as I said, the music is very deep. So I encourage you to check that out. So we're happy to be able to bring Dan here. We, by the way, we're planning to bring the entire production of Tales from the Earth to God at Riverside live, which is a large production with a lot of performers and a lot of musicians. That's what we were planning to bring to God at Riverside until this thing happened, in which all of the performances have been basically closed down until maybe sometime, July or whatever, August, when they finally decide that it's okay for everybody to come out and have art, you know. I'm not going to get into that, but I can tell you already that art is essential. I'm going to tell you art is essential. It's the essential thing. It is the thing, the conductor of ideas. Dan Sheehan, please welcome Dan Sheehan. Thank you.
Why, thank you. Okay, I thought we were starting with, I guess we're starting with a song. I thought we were starting with a discussion. That's fine, though.
Oh, Dan, if you'd rather start with a discussion, we can do that, of course.
I can say a little something and go into it.
Okay.
Okay, so you might be wondering, what's a Irish-looking guy like me doing playing Afro Roots? Of late, my music has focused on songs of justice, particularly with Tales from Earth Incorporated, which is a concept album about how greed manifests itself around the world. And there's also a live concert experience, as Kevin mentioned. Today, had this virus not been going on, we were going to be doing the full-blown production, which has rock and soul musicians, world musicians, strings, horns, the whole shebang. But obviously, we are doing a little different thing tonight. So these songs are about different parts of the world and what greed has done. Most of the problems of the world, do trace back to greed, unfortunately. And the current times that we're in shows that that's probably, not the best priority for us to have right now. So we're going to start off in Africa, in keeping with the Afro Roots series. I want to give a shout out to my sister for picking up this shirt for me when she was in Indonesia, by the way. We're going to be heading not to Indonesia, but we will be going to the Pacific and Asia on a journey around the world tonight. And the first song I'm going to play is called Black Gold. And this is the first song I wrote for the project, and it's the oldest subject matters. This goes back to the 1990s, and some of you might be familiar with a Nigerian author named Ken Saro-Wiwa, who is of the Ogoni people of Nigeria. So this song's called Black Gold, Ogoni 9. The Ogoni 9, Ken Saro-Wiwa was one of them, and there were 8 other men who were protesting the exploitation being done to Ogoni land, Nigeria, by the Shell Oil Company. And so they ended up, of course, the military government didn't like that because they had this arrangement with the oil company, and they dealt with it in a way that was quite tragic in framing these men for murder. And I'll let you listen to the lyrics and hear the rest of the story. This is called Black Gold. off a dark continent at the edge of the sea lies a dark liquid gold waiting to be seized by whomever has the confidence, by whomever has the might, irregardless of the consequence, irregardless of the right. Black liquid gold, liquid gold, liquid gold, liquid gold, worth more than the land that God gave to Eve, more valuable than the oceans and the air we breathe, worth more than the cries in the middle of the night of the widowed wives, those who sacrificed. Black liquid gold, liquid gold, black liquid gold, liquid gold. They met you with poise, and they met you with valiance, and you met them with shards, showing profits per gallons. But the mighty Dutch guilder proved too hard to resist for the Nigerian generals and the minds they would twist. And like those who came before, with only gold on their minds, to the natives and their lands, to their rights they are blind, as history has shown on every continent. Yellow or black gold always leaves a trail of lament. Black liquid gold, liquid gold, liquid gold, black liquid gold. Unmoved by blackmail, undeterred by death, they forged on for their tribe as your news stole their breath. And you watched without concern for a heaven or a hell, all the lies you sold to Royal Dutch Shell. Like liquid gold, liquid gold, black liquid gold, black liquid gold, black liquid gold, liquid gold, black liquid gold, black liquid gold.
Yeah, that was a beautiful song. Thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a lot of history in that song. In the West African tradition, there's a West African tradition of the Jali, the griot, and the Jali is someone who actually conveys history and the history of families through music. But they also convey a lot of other history through that music too. And so a lot of the history of West Africa, if you really want to know the history, you have to talk to the Jalis, the griot families, because they are that oral history line. But not only do they tell you the family's history, but they tell you the accounts of history, the people's account, the people's view. and your music is like in that way the music of the jolly, in your own way, because you are telling a story that won't be in the newspapers. It won't, might not even be in the history books. It's this, but it is the story, and it's the story from the people's point of view. I imagine if anybody, you know, who lived in that time period in Nigeria with the actions of Shell was hearing your song, it would touch their heart completely, because they would say, "Here's somebody telling our story, and if I go and look in the newspaper, I won't see it there. If I go and look in a history book, I won't see it there. You know, but here's our story." So, on that note, is there something about truth telling that uh, that you find important in the art of music?
Yeah, absolutely. Throughout my career playing music, I released several albums, and occasionally I've got into socially conscious things. For example, I had an album about 10 years ago called The Dan Sheehan Conspiracy, which had a song called Collateral Damage, which was about the Iraq War, and the term, collateral damage. But I also had songs about a lot of other things, relationships, typical things people write about. But in the last several years, just with some things going on, I've had this kind of great realization about the extent to which there's some things going on that don't need to be going on. I mean, coronavirus probably maybe something could have been done about it a long time ago, but at this point, it's here, we're dealing with it. But there's things that go on that absolutely don't have to go on, that the people have to stand up against. And a lot of it is going on because somebody has 4 mansions, but they know someone that's got 5 mansions, so they're not satisfied. They got to have another mansion, or they've only got a 40-foot yacht and they're envying someone's 50-foot yacht. So they got to find a cheaper labor source or something, or a less environmentally conscious labor source. And again, going back to the current situation, we can right now probably see that maybe a billionaire tax cut last year shouldn't have been the biggest priority, that we could have had. So I've just in recent years just been really focusing more on social justice work, and I also did, got for a while I was doing some political work locally. So I just started infusing it into my lyrics, and this last album was the first one where I didn't have a backlog of material. So I had all these ideas that were about social justice, and I turned them into the concept of Tales from Earth Incorporated, which is about the notion that the whole planet has kind of become a big corporation.
Wow. You know, I have to ask you about this after hearing you talk about those things, and that is, we are in a new environment of censorship that we probably haven't seen ever to this degree at this point. Have you experienced censorship in your work?
Um, I mean, I don't. I think in a way, yes. For example, if I compare the album release of Tales from Earth Incorporated to previous albums that were less topical, maybe I don't consider Tales from Earth Incorporated that controversial, because to me, it's not very controversial. Like the next song I'm going to play is about tribes in the Amazon, and what's happening to them right now in Brazil. Or what happened with Ken Saro-Wiwa and the Ogoni Nine. To me, it shouldn't be a big controversy, that, obviously those things shouldn't be going on. But I mean, I'm not going to say censorship, but as far as ads to radio station playlists, because big way I've gotten exposure for my last few albums has been college radio. And what I noticed actually is that just certain stations that normally had played the music before didn't. But on the other hand, other stations that hadn't really played it before did. So it balanced out in the end. But I think maybe there were a few that maybe didn't like some of the subject matter, or just in general some people are resistant to subject matter that's this kind of justice stuff, which I would call socially based music, but some people think is politically based.
Yeah. Um, were you influenced by socially based music as a child?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I grew up on Long Island in the suburbs where in the 80s when we're mostly listening to rock music and stuff like that. There were some people like Neil Young, who I might play a song by later, Bob Dylan, who had songs like Masters of War. U2 was very big at the time,
Uh-huh.
and they had a lot of songs about world events and things like that from history and from the present time. So I always like that. I like any kind of substantive lyrics. I know some people that lyrics to songs are not that important to them, but I'm a writer. If I wasn't writing music, I'd probably write poems and things anyway. So just words that are meaningful is very important to me. And with what's going on in the world, the last couple of decades, really, um, that's kind of just directed me towards the current subject matter. I mean, the next album, I don't know. It might be about uh, dancing through the daffodils or something. Um, but for this one, that's what I felt compelled to do.
Wow. Well, thank you for being compelled to do that because, nowadays there seems to be a lot of that social consciousness seems to have been swept out of popular music. It's kind of rare that you hear popular songs that present socially conscious themes. There was, I think, not too long ago, it's very fresh in my memory, in which there were artists like John Lennon who was talking about so many important socially conscious issues. Bob Dylan, for instance, that you mentioned, and any number of people, Jimi Hendrix, and Edwin Starr released a song in the 60s
War?
called War.
Yeah.
Uh,
What is it good for?
yeah, and I would question whether that song would get production or see light of day today, because it goes right to the heart of the question, you know. And it became a massive hit when I was a kid. That was probably number one on the Billboard charts. I remember being a kid dancing to that song, and I'm saying, is there a comparison in this day and age? And I'm thrilled when any artist takes that socially conscious leap toward their music, because it just asks the other question of what else can music be for? You know, is
Yeah.
it going to just be there to entertain us, or can it be something that can contribute to our own evolution? You know, so yeah, I'm thrilled whenever I hear that in any kind of music. So
Are
thank
you
you.
aware that Alexander Ocasio-Cortez, after that video came out where they were dancing on the roof at Boston University, and there were actually people criticizing that when she went into her office for the first time, she danced in with the song "War" playing, the Edwin Starr song.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So,
people
so apparently young
criticize.
people know it.
Oh, but did they criticize it because of the song, or did they criticize it
Oh
for
no,
something
it's
else?
just there was you saw the video where her and her college friends are dancing on a roof at
Oh, I
Boston
didn't see it.
University.
No, I didn't see it. But
Oh,
I'll
okay.
check it
I'll
out now
send you
that
the
you
link.
mentioned. Okay.
It's a pretty viral thing.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad young people are starting to hear that song.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a special song. Um, would you like to play another song for us?
Yeah. So I'm gonna play a song called "Damn That River." This is about Brazil. It's about the
Okay.
indigenous people of Brazil. So we're gonna cross over the Atlantic from Nigeria to Brazil, um, which is what a lot of people did actually historically, right?
Right.
Um, so this is about the indigenous people and a hydro dam project that's been going on, which is doing the old story of kicking the indigenous people off their land. Um, so this is called Dam That River. Proud citizens, a nation on the rise. The World Cup and Olympics in 2 years' time. A few more deaths may be the price to pay. for the stadiums to be ready for the games to play. After banning beer in arenas, after deaths at soccer games, we vote for a reversal so our sponsor can proclaim that cerveza would be flowing in the stadiums again. 'Cause the king of beers, it is quite clear, has come to take his reign. Oh, here in the Amazon we got some pesky laws to protect the rainforest, but don't take any pause. Gotta build lots of dams for the energy we need. Just move the tribes aside and forge ahead with speed. And use the power bestowed to you and wield the mighty pen. And inconvenient laws are gone till we want them back again. Don't worry about the residents we forced to relocate. There's 25,000 Indian votes a president does not make. So damn that river, damn what they might say about the Kaya pole and anybody standing in our way. And let outdated livelihoods obstruct ambitious plans, creating 2 years worth of jobs, repurposing the lands. Get yourselves out of the way and stop blocking the roads. We kindly have provided you with new concrete abodes. The fish have left the Zingu, take a job among the crew. Help construct the very dam that's planned to displace you. Water, wind, and solar power have to do with our consortium of hydro plants and fossil fuels. If you think that we ain't your blessing, well then please ask the US, Canada, and the Spanish and the Portuguese. You think we must consult you, get permission from your tribe? Well, Honorable Cardoso, she has ruled quite otherwise. In a reimagined forest code from Senor President, makes it quite clear that we can clear you from your residence. So damn that river, damn what they might say about the Jaruna tribe and anybody standing in our way. Can't let outdated livelihoods obstruct ambitious plans, creating 2 years worth of jobs, repurposing the lands. Get yourselves out of the way and stop blocking the roads. We kindly have provided you with new concrete abodes. The fish have left the Zingu, take a job among the crew. Help construct the very dam that's planned to displace you. Yes, damn that river, damn what they might say about the Aurora tribe and anyone that's standing in our way. Got aluminum to smelt and rivers to divert. Might cost more than it saves, but it'll be someone else's term. The fish have left the Zingu, take a job among the crew. Help construct the very dam that's planned to displace you. Thank you. I have a live audience here. I am the great Oz.
Well, listen, I feel like I'm learning a lot when I'm hearing the songs because I'm hearing like really elements of rock and roll that some, things that remind me of some rock songs, but then they go a different place. But at the same time, I'm hearing a history lesson. I'm like, wait a minute, and I'm getting so much out of the songs. I'm hearing the grooves, I'm hearing the lyrics, I'm hearing the musicality, but I'm also hearing this history lesson that. So after this song, I got to ask you one more time to capsulize what that song was about because it's actually a concrete event that song was about that is probably still affecting people to this day. So tell us again what that song was about. Not,
Yeah.
kind of briefly.
So, uh, some people are aware of the current president of Brazil, Bolsonaro,
Yeah.
and he's, um, well, I mean, he's very right wing, but he has his attitude towards the indigenous people is really poor. And his predecessor, the last elected president of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, she actually got voted out of office eventually. But she's the one that actually revived this project, which is a hydro dam project where they're like rerouting the Xingu River, which is in the Amazon part of Brazil. And as I mentioned before, so most of the people, the tribes there are fishing tribes. So when you divert the river, you're moving their livelihood away from them. And so a lot of them, ironically, are having to then, to make a living, join the construction project for the dam, the very dam that's threatening their livelihood. And it's a thing where that job will last a couple of years, and then that project will be done, and there's no fish in the river for them to fish. So it's very unfortunate. A lot of people know that last summer the Amazon was burning, and there were a lot of theories about that. But Bolsonaro, the current president, was acting like, oh, it's just a natural thing that's occurring, and obviously there are a lot of people that are pretty sure that a lot of those fires were intentionally set. But yeah, Bolsonaro has said something to the effect of the native people will either conform or I don't want to misquote him, but he's something along the lines of or either adapt or essentially go extinct. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. It's so important to be able to tell those stories and keep bringing those stories forward because, of course, I don't know if those stories are the stories that are going to be wind up in the history books. Again, like I said, I don't know if anybody's going to read about this in the future, and they're going to read probably colorful stories about how this beautiful dam got built and rerouted the river.
Oh yeah.
Amazing works project that happened, and so we can see that all over the world, and we can definitely see it here in the United States. We can see that how that same process has happened for centuries here in the United States, and that if you were to get our history lesson from the Indian community, the Native Americans community here in the United States, if we were to get our history lesson from them, our idea of the history of the United States would be totally different. We would probably view the complete history of the United States through a lens of criminality, as opposed to the lens that we see it right now.
Yeah, immigration might be viewed a little differently.
Immigration would be viewed very differently, as I remember one of my favorite T-shirts had a Native American group holding huge rifles, saying "Homeland Security." Um, Fighting terrorism since 1492.
Yeah, I've seen that shirt. Yeah, that's kind of a classic, that one.
Right, which drives the point home, that yeah, we're getting, history is always a story, and we have to know who's writing the story, to get a grasp on, what's going on with that. And so that's why I say I'm learning a lot from the story you're telling in your song. You're telling a story that perhaps other people won't tell. And in that song, I'm hearing another influence, and that's maybe you would want to share with us who are your most strong musical influences in the rock and roll era, because I'm hearing some rock and roll influences.
Hmm. It's a lot of the British '60s groups. You
Yeah,
know, the Beatles, the
right,
Rolling Stones, the
right,
Who.
right.
Definitely the Who, big time. Yeah, but
Well, I think the Who might be a little upset right now because they were such a great band, but now when you say the Who, everybody thinks they mean WHO, and the Who
oh
is
yeah,
probably rolling their graves saying, "No, that's not us.
right.
We created all this music."
They're like, no, we're not the ones that said this. Yeah,
Right.
but you might remember. Okay, so here's where we disclose that Kevin and I have performed together before, and will be doing so momentarily. Um, and I think the last time you played with us when we did a short set in the city, we did that song "Damn That River"
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
And one person I knew that was there was referring to it as that ska song, and I was
yeah,
like, okay. So people always hear different things. Like people hear different influences depending on what theirs are, and with the different instrumentation too. Obviously, it's all acoustic guitar today, but when we do the full show, we've got all kinds of crazy instruments, and that last song has Brazilian instruments, both colonial Brazilian instruments,
yes,
like the cavaquinho, and
yes,
also indigenous instruments. So this guy John La Barbera is surrounded by all these instruments, and he has to keep switching between them.
yes.
It's pretty fun. So that's why I was banging on the guitar and stuff, because normally he's doing a little percussion thing there.
Yeah, yeah. John LaBarbera, incidentally, is a really incredible musician. I happened to, Dan, only maybe 3 months after I did that concert with you, I did a different concert with John LaBarbera in
Did you?
which he had written probably 80% of the music, unbeknownst to everybody on the bandstand. It was with an artist named Alessandro Belloni.
Mm.
And John had written perhaps 80% of that music. It's incredible. I didn't even know that either. But yeah, he's John has done so much stuff. But I would want to make why am I hearing some threads of Zeppelin in your music too? Is Zeppelin an influence?
Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Of
you
course.
know, yeah, yeah. Of who, right? Who wouldn't be influenced by
Maybe
Zeppelin?
not in terms of hitting super high notes and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, just the overall sound, dynamics of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hearing it. That yeah, that's beautiful. Um, yeah, I really appreciate the history lesson, the musicality in the music, and let me ask you another question. When you started in music, were you into music sort of to become a classical trained musician, or did you get into music for rock and roll just at from the very beginning?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate, even though I went to a few different schools, elementary and otherwise, in a couple of different states, that I was always in a place that had a good music education program. So, we were always learning the recorder or the xylophone really young. And then in elementary school, I actually played the clarinet. So I played in the school band, played the clarinet. Then I think the first guitar our family had was my sister's, who's a visual artist, but she just kind of kept going with the visual thing rather than the music. Then my brother picked it up. It was a really low quality guitar actually, but he picked it up, and then started a tradition of playing guitar in the family. Started taking lessons. Um, and then I got into singing, which meant playing the clarinet was going to be difficult while singing. The guitar works a little better for that. So I got more into guitar, and then I got a little less into the school music and just kind of doing stuff with my friends and things like that. And yeah, that was doing like the rock influence, I suppose. Um, Honestly, once I started writing songs, I started taking it a lot more seriously, because I learned that I had a lot of weird chords that I could come up with and interesting lyrics. So then that was what really motivated me to keep playing.
Did you have support but from your family and your interest in music, or were they pushing against you?
pushing against me. No, I'm just saying that to horrify my mother, who I think is probably with us right now. No, they were supportive. I mean, I think at one point I was talking about a drum set or something, and that never happened. I made one out of boxes and things. But my mom, put out the money for guitar lessons and everything, so I have to thank her for that.
Wow, that's great. And they
Yeah.
they supported you right on through, even when you said, even when you're like, I'm gonna center my life around this. They were right there with you on that.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
And
that's
then
beautiful.
in college, I studied classical guitar for a few semesters, and I think there was an extra fee involved in that. They paid for that.
Wow.
um, my classical chops are not quite, where they were at the time. But that's why if I need something with lots of classical style, that's where I get John LaBarbera to come do the heavy lifting.
I hear you. I hear you. Wow, that's very interesting. It's beautiful. You always have to give thanks when parents give you that support. And give you that encouragement. You have to give thanks.
Yeah, and my
There's
father played violin when he was young, but I never heard him play. But
There you
apparently
go.
he had
There,
that talent. Yeah.
yeah. So your father was all for you in music then. He was like all there.
Yeah, he supported it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I think maybe it's happens one way or the next for musicians. Either their parents are supporting them and are happy, or either their parents are really fighting against it. Very little in between on that. Um, because a lot of musicians have to literally fight against their parents to do that.
Well, I think my parents were aware that resistance is futile. To quote a alien race from Star Trek.
Well, I would say it that way too, that oppression inspires rebellion, you know. So if, parents wanted to make sure that their child do something that they don't want them to do, keep trying to keep them away from it, keep trying to oppress them and steer them away from it, because a child is going to be attracted to that thing.
Yeah, it's not really
Uh,
gonna work.
so that's advice to all the parents out there, all the parents in Afro Roots land. If you want to get your child to avoid doing something, then really support it all the way. And start doing it yourself. If you don't want your child to play guitar, pick up the guitar and play it for them all the time. So, Dan, would you like to play another song for us?
Yeah, you got that Umbira handy?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay,
Great.
the G one.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna head back to Africa now. There's a song called Kimberley. It is not named after a woman or a girl. It's named after the Kimberley Protocol, which is a set of regulations about the diamond industry. And it's the song is about Zimbabwe. So Kevin's gonna play the mbira, which of course is a Zimbabwean instrument. There we go. There we have some. And he plays on the album version of this, and has done it live with us. And this is about a kid forced by the Robert Mugabe regime to mine for diamonds. And at the end of the song, you're going to hear some lyrics which are about the fact that, in addition to the human exploitation of the whole conflict diamond industry, there's, of course, environmental devastation from tearing up the land. And, you can get diamonds that are made in a lab, and they're actual diamonds. They're called synthetic diamonds, but most people think they're fake. But they're chemically exactly the same thing as a diamond that grows in the ground over a period of thousands of years. But they're a lot less expensive, and they're made without tearing up the earth and forcing 9-year-old kids, with guns pointed at them to mine them. So this is Kimberley, and we're gonna push the limits of this is gonna be experiment, to see how things sync up between us in our remote locations. But whenever Kevin is playing the mbira, it's always magical. So I'm sure it'll be good.
Thank you.
They survived the copters, they survived the landmines. But the 47s claimed their lives. And I found myself at the age of 9 being sent to work at the very mine where my parents would dig from dawn to dusk to deliver the prize that would deliver us from a world of abject poverty in a highly resource-blessed country. But Mugabe and friends were of different minds and decided to take all that we could find to pay the staggering debts of those EMDC. They took over the mine, now they've taken me. Oh, Kimberley, don't you see? Your rules just don't apply to me. Torn from school to work as a government slave. Dawn at dusk, we tear at the land, so a bride can proudly extend her hand, unaware of the dogs and the torture and rape. Hosts to dig on either side, one for the bodies and one for the minds. Under cover of darkness we would blindly dig to find a ticket out among the rocks and twigs. But the soldiers won't tolerate any losses. Gotta build up a stack to pay their bosses, unless a pebble or two should happen to slip between the flap of a sack beneath their belt and hip, in hopes of finding deportation to a nearby Kimberley authorized nation, away from the eyes of Robert Mugabe, neglectful leader of Zimbabwe, who lives with disgrace so exorbitantly. Oh, Kimberley, don't you see? Your rules just don't apply to me. Torn from school to work as a government slave. Dawn at dusk, we tear at the land, so a bride can proudly extend her hand, unaware of the dogs and the torture and rape. Bira solo. Down in a hole deep inside of the earth, searching for diamonds of natural birth that could be made quite conflict-free in the safe confines of a laboratory of equal beauty and composition, without the need for ammunition. But the brides and grooms feel better knowing the gems were many centuries growing in a veritable ancient garden of slowly growing crystal carbon, with symbols of love are naturally born in lands that must be cleared and torn. guarded by men in uniform. Oh, Kimberley, don't you see? Your rules just don't apply to me. Time for school to work as a government slave. Dawn at dusk, we tear at the land, so a bride can proudly extend her hand, unaware the dogs and the torture and rape. Thanks for joining in. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a beautiful song always. Yeah. Wow. I have to tell you again that I'm playing the song and I'm going into the story again about these mines. And give us a short synopsis of that mine situation in Zimbabwe, because most likely it hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Mugabe is gone, but this is something that's gone on all over Africa, wherever there's diamonds, and also in Asia to an extent as well. And the thing with the Kimberley Protocol, the song being called Kimberley, is that was something that was created to make sure that rebel groups could not fund their rebellions against governments through the conflict diamonds trade, or the blood diamond trade, right? To summon a title from a film by Leo DiCaprio, right? Or the film he was in. Let's put it
Blood
that way.
diamonds, yeah.
Yeah. So the problem was with Zimbabwe, it was actually the government that was using the blood diamonds to fund their side of the war, and the Kimberley Protocol didn't say that you couldn't do that. They had to revise it. They did eventually revise it, but that meant for years, even though supposedly there was no conflict diamonds being sold, and of course even now there still are going to be some getting to the market. But at that point in time, he could totally get away with it because he wasn't a rebel group. He was the legit government, and they were basically, forcing people, to mine. There's soldiers surrounding the diamond mines, pointing guns at people, making them mine. And, there's people, sometimes the miners would, try to sneak one in their pocket because they're trying to get out of Zimbabwe, and that's their passage out. And if the soldiers saw that, they'd get very mad at them and take the diamonds. The soldiers themselves were trying to sneak their own little stockpile. So it was quite a situation.
Yeah.
And still is. Not as bad as it was in Zimbabwe a few years ago, but still.
Yeah. The beautiful, I would say, the important thing, the urgent thing about the message the song delivers is something that few people outside of living in Africa, living in the areas where all of these conflicts exist. The important thing that it does is it tells people that something is going on that you're not hearing in your news. You probably won't hear it. But it's something that's very urgent is going on. There's a crisis. And the crisis is happening in every African nation. There's 54 African nations, and each 54 of them has a major crisis in terms of resources and how those resources are being literally stolen out of Africa. And a lot of people have heard something about it, but you don't quite know how that works. And I'll just say that for most of the cases where resources are found in Africa, most of those resources are being handled by mercenary armies, thug armies, rebel groups that have basically surrounded the area and have are holding the people and the children particularly in hostage to do the work to draw the resources, which then gets sold to a middleman. The middleman then sells it to the corporate representatives who then take it to wherever corporation, be it big tech or be it the diamond or the gold or whatever industry, and they use the minerals or the jewels or whatever they take from the African soil. They use it to create the items that we buy, that we pay big money for. But the Africans who live in the specific areas where these resources are coming from do not see that money. What they see hostage crisis. They see slavery. They see slavery that we have here in the West, or here those in Europe have no concept of. It never shows up in your newspaper. It never gets on your TV screen, but they see it. And one of the primary is, so I'm going to tell you where to look at this up. Look at the Enough Project, enoughproject.org. You can find that. You can read some information about that. You can also look up Crisis in the Congo. You can do a YouTube search, Google search, all these things. And there's probably a specific organization that handles the information coming out of Zimbabwe and Southern Africa as far as those mining industries go too. But in these areas of Africa where literally no media sources go and report accurately on what's going on, and if they did, their reports would not see light of the day because whatever company that is benefiting from these resources will not support that kind of reporting going on in the major newspapers. So, a small example, like I said, is Congo. If Congo was getting market value, or Congolese citizens was getting market value for the minerals that go into everybody's cell phone, Congo within 3 months would be the richest country on planet Earth. Okay? So that's how crazy it is out there. And this is news that you won't see, you won't hear about it. It's a crisis. When people say how many people have died in Congo because of this, over 8 million people have died. And when you heard years ago about the rape crisis in the Congo, and when the rape crisis in the Congo came to you in the newspaper, it looked like people in Congo were just going crazy. Well, that wasn't the case. It was the mercenary armies, it was the thug armies that had come into Congo and were raping the women there, killing the men and taking the land and putting the children to work to pull those minerals out the ground, which they were selling to the cell phone companies. Still going on today. They were selling for a nickel and dime to the cell phone companies, which would then take, not directly to cell phone companies, it was going to the middleman. And then from there, going to the tech companies, which is still going on today. It's still the process. And if you try, you can try as hard as you want to get this word out, but you won't get traction on major media for this. It's a topic that I get fired up about. So when you get me started, my blood boils. I'm ready to start yelling, but I keep myself calm and talk to you with a straight face. But Dan's song, Kimberley, brings that to mind. So I just have to, of course, spill the beans to you today, and I will do it again on future occasions. Dan, did you want to follow up with me on that?
Things like that, stories like that, just make us realize how, you know, social distancing is easy compared to, what some people are going through around the world. So, let's as frustrating as it is, we have to remember that, and that this will end at some point, and maybe a lot sooner than some of the kinds of things Kevin's talking about going on in Africa and other parts of the world.
Yeah. In other words, what he's saying is, yeah, there are much larger crises. There are much larger crises. When somebody threw a flag up and said, "Oh my God, this is the biggest crisis. Everybody go home and sit inside your house." Nobody told you that there were millions of people dying in Congo, and that's been going on for years and years and years. But they didn't throw a flag up about that. They didn't throw a flag up. Okay. So yeah, it's important to realize that, yeah, if you think we're going through something now, like Dan said, you think we're going through something now, there are literally, parts of the world where this, what we're going through, is a walk in the park. It's a walk in the park. And so imagine that, and but don't just imagine it. Go check it out. Don't believe what I say. Go do the research. Go check it out. Enoughproject.org, Crisis in the Congo. I can't tell you exactly who's doing the on the ground reporting in Zimbabwe, but it won't be too hard to find it. So uh, check it out, get that information, because it won't be in your major media newspaper. It won't be on your major media report. So and that it's important for Afro Roots as a platform to be able to express these things to you, because we can do it and still be playing music and dancing at the same time. And you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to have joy while you protest and while you talk about how to create a better world. You have to be joyful. You have to be able to be singing and dancing while you are really making serious statements about how to make a better world. So that's what I love about the process of music. Music allows us to get under and over a lot of gates to be able to talk about what needs to be talked about. So thank you so much for that song. By the way, when it comes to diamonds, I've always steered away from diamonds. I always thought that, there was something about the whole diamond thing that I felt like somebody was trying to pull the wool over my eyes. Hey, it's a rock that's coming from the ground. Are you telling me that this thing is supposed to be valuable? Then somebody made that up.
I mean, they do look very beautiful, though.
They do look beautiful, but hey, opal looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Jade looks beautiful. I like jade. If
And
somebody
any
told
further
me,
diamonds that I get are going to be the quote-unquote synthetic diamonds, which, like I said, are the exact same thing, but they're just made without tearing up the earth.
right, right. So yeah,
When you see me with all my diamond studs, my new piercings next time, you know those are synthetic diamonds.
you say these are not blood diamonds.
Right.
These are not diamonds that were created tearing up the earth.
Yeah.
Woo, well,
For my
thank
wife,
you.
for her what engagement band, her engagement ring rather. We did a lot of research to find a place that ethically sourced their stones. We used a company called Brilliant Earth, actually,
Wow.
based in San Francisco. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Make sure you put that out there for everybody. Brilliant
Mhm.
Earth, everybody. Because there has to be some alternatives out there for people to go to. If you're into the diamond thing, you have to know how to do that so that you're not participating in the game. So don't participate in the game. So go to Brilliant Earth and reroute this thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is good to know how not to
I'm
participate
not
in the
working
game.
for them, by the way.
What's not working?
I'm not working for Brilliant Earth. Neither is Kevin.
Yeah, we're not working for them. We're just pointing the finger that direction. Did you want to play another song, Dan?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
You were talking about the need to dance and everything, so I'm gonna play a
okay.
song which is about climate change, but it's surprisingly danceable.
All right.
So, yeah, you might want to groove a little more to this one. It's called Wishing Well.
I love it.
So we're gonna go before we went from Africa over to the west to Brazil. Now we're gonna go east to a few different spots. Um, we're gonna start out on an island called Kiribati. I don't know if any of you have heard of it. If you were to look at it up on Google Maps, it is like a tiny dot in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like right in the middle, and it is only about this high above the water. So for them, climate change is not something that's off, 50 years from now. They are concerned that their entire country is going to be underwater to the point that the president of Kiribati purchased land from Fiji to move the entire population to. Hi. um, yeah, so we start off there, And then we go over to the Maldives. Probably a few more people know the Maldives, which is in the Indian Ocean. And a similar kind of deal. They're, maybe instead of 1 meter above, they're like 2 meters above. And they've already they actually had a situation where the president and the cabinet of the Maldives went underwater. They put on scuba gear, donned scuba gear, went underwater to do this dramatic thing where they signed an appeal to the rest of the world to take climate change seriously because it's such an imminent threat to them. And then the song ends up in Bangladesh, which of course is not an island but a coastal country in the Indian subcontinent. And they're already dealing with climate change on the coastal areas there. So they've got things going on like there's floating schools because a lot of times the children can't get to school because the path to school is flooded. So they converted boats into schools, and the boat goes and picks them up and takes them around in the water all day, teaching them lessons, got computers on it and everything. And then they've developed other things like, just to survive, like floating gardens where they figured out a way to grow produce out of seaweed that's floating on a raft in the water. So, there's already some places that are having to do some pretty extreme things. So this is called Wishing Well. As prophetically predicted on the flag of Kiribati, the view of this island in the next century, passing further bounded by its discovery of a sun setting over a lonely vacancy. In most events you could imagine, you would be quite stunned to find such a tiny nation placing in at number one in the race to sea. First we'll sink below the sea. This tiny island nation has a shot to go down in history. Yeah, history. Go down in history. Oh, history. Goodbye, dear friends. We wish you will be well. It's an inevitable outcome. We've got to sell our inefficient cars from less efficient factories. To change would infringe on our dearest liberties. Sweet liberty. Oh, liberty. Sweet, sweet liberty. Well, the Maldives have a plan to make the future sell. There's no view like you can get from their underwater hotel. Just slink out of your window in your iron lunging fins. Hope that you like seafood, chicken doesn't swim. Now it gives a whole new meaning to emerging from a meeting when the president and cabinet offer their warmest greeting after taking off their masks after a meeting down below where they've set up desks and chairs to convene. Below the ocean's flow, yeah, down below, down on the ocean floor, way down below. Goodbye, dear friends. We wish you will be well. It's an inevitable outcome. We've got to sell our inefficient cars from less efficient factories. Change would infringe on our dearest liberty. Oh, sweet, sweet liberty. Yeah, liberty, child. Sweet liberty. wishing well. We wish you well as you sink into the wishing well. Do 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 do. Ba da 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 ba da ba da 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 da. Da 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 ba da ba da 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 do 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 do. Now if you've got an extra boat, you don't know what to do, get yourself to Bangladesh and sell it as a floating school. If your path gets flooded and you're feeling pretty hard, and lighten up and buy some produce from a local floating garden. Cause when the monsoons come, they developed quite a craft, growing fruits and vegetables right out of seaweed on a raft. If wading across the village, man, just ain't your thing, in Dhaka there's 15 million people you can squeeze between. Only 15 million people, just squeeze between, right in between. Goodbye, dear friends, we wish you will be well. It's an inevitable outcome, you know we've got to sell our inefficient cars from less efficient factories to change would infringe on our dearest liberties. Yeah, liberty. Oh, oh, give me some of that sweet, sweet liberty. You know I need some of that liberty. Up, up, the water goes. When it's gonna stop, nobody knows. Up, up, the water goes. Where the people gonna live, nobody knows. Up, up, the water goes. Where it's gonna stop, nobody knows. Up, up, the water goes. Where the people gonna live, nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. No, 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 nobody knows. Thank you, thank you.
That's amazing. So
I'm just checking my guitar to make sure I didn't shred a hole in it.
Okay.
Yeah, but.
So in other words, this is a part of the world that's getting ready to go underwater.
Quite a thing, huh?
How soon will they go underwater? Is it projected?
I mean, really hard to say how soon. One weird thing about the coronavirus, as you know, there's a lot less traffic out there. Or, the song refers to the inefficient cars made in less efficient factories. So I think there's a lot less carbon going up there. So not that we want this to continue, obviously, but for the time being, things are hopefully slowing down as far as carbon emissions. And I would like to believe that even after the coronavirus is no longer a big threat, that people will, be like, hey, I kind of liked it when there was not a bunch of smog all over the cities. And, hey, it wasn't that bad, walking places and stuff. And, maybe I just kind of hope that this situation shifts people's priorities, shifts the societal priorities a bit, and things will not happen that soon. But, Kiribati, these countries that I mentioned already have lost some land mass. And depending on the tide, that might be very noticeable or not that noticeable. But they basically don't have the luxury of sitting back and saying, hey, well, I want my freedom to do anything, include, drive a vehicle that's just, I don't know, getting 5 miles an hour or something for no reason, and you're the only one in it,
Yeah, the amazing thing is that New York City is one of the places most at risk for the climate problem. New York City is basically only held together by the fact that it has an electrical pump system keeping water from invading and totally taking over the city. So Kirabatz, is is on is going through something that New York City is on the short line for if
Yeah.
something doesn't happen. You know,
A lot of places in the U.S., Miami, for example, southern Florida.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, and what you mentioned is absolutely crucial to really ponder, and that's that this whole shutdown from the coronavirus pandemic has led to a lot of environmental improvements because people are not driving as much. A lot of industry has been shut down, um, and so a lot of the factors that would be polluting and sending all of this emissions into the air have actually gone on a break for a while. And in the meantime, people are seeing wildlife return to places that has never happened in decades. They're seeing it happen in different places now. They're seeing waterways clear up in ways that they didn't think was imaginable. They're seeing all these things throughout this time period. It's you know, I for one am not going to applaud the shutdown, but it's always good to look at the best things, look at the positive things that have come from something. It's always good to focus on the positive, let's say. And so if you can focus on the positive that comes out of this time period in which they literally stopped the rotation of the planet. I used to watch videos about that. What would happen if they stopped the rotation of planet Earth? Well, thousands and thousands and thousands of people would die because the planet is rotating at 1,000 miles per hour. So if they stopped the rotation of planet Earth, everything would slide, and there'd be this massive, like, a slide of people and buildings and trees and everything just going sweeping across the planet Earth. And so, in a way, that's kind of what happened. Everything just stopped, and a lot of people said, "Oh, let's just put everything on pause for a minute." But the actual putting everything on pause was going to have some very adverse effects. A lot of people are going to die from that, and a lot of people are dying from that. Um, at the same time, a lot of things are getting a chance to live. A lot of wilderness areas are finding new life. A lot of waterways are finding new life. So I guess in this time period, the amazing thing is, you know, what can we what can we do to create the new world through this time period? What can we do so that when this everything begins to open back up, we have a brand new focus, a brand new world, a brand new energy and desire for making this planet healthy and making ourselves healthy as a result. That's the the possible benefit of this whole thing is that uh, a very new world can emerge as the cloud lifts, and I think that's something to really be optimistic
Mm.
and to be banking on. Really, is that a whole new world will emerge as this cloud lifts. Um, did you want to say something about that? Well,
Um, yes, what I want to say, I'll segue it into the next song.
okay.
Oh, and I also, just before I forget, I wanted to mention, because I believe I don't see everything that's going on the screen, but well, I want to give a shout out to my friend Russ, who I saw something pop up on the screen a moment ago. Um, I believe there's a PayPal link being put up periodically, and I wanted to mention that. First of all, a lot of people are out of work right now, so feel free. The show is free. You don't have to feel compelled to contribute, but the money raised from that tonight, and at most of these online concerts I'm doing, unless it's for another cause, is going to go towards putting on free community performances of Tales from Earth Incorporated. This is so my segue is we're talking about the corona and after the coronavirus. So after the coronavirus, when we get the whole ensemble together with all the instruments and start putting on some full Tales from Earth Incorporated shows, We're gonna try to do some that are more community-based free shows for people to come out and enjoy some music and learn a few things, as we're hopefully learning tonight. So I appreciate anyone that is able to contribute to that cause. I'm going to play a song called Patterns of the Rain. This is not from Tales from Earth Incorporated. It's a song I wrote a couple of decades ago, I think. But it's about the fact that often people can feel uninspired, and then inspiration can come from nowhere. And people might be feeling a bit uninspired during this particular time. This is about being inspired by nature. And I know in the last concert from 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of nature theme, and I was attending that, and I thought, oh yeah, I'm gonna that made me want to do this song. This is called Patterns of the Rain.
Great.
Raindrops fall around me, rest upon my hair. Humidity is weighing down the air. The silence that surrounds me just doesn't seem to care. It doesn't even notice that I'm there. Inspiration avoids me, it hides behind a door. I open it to find it's there no more. Music disappoints me, I begin to feel a chord, and like a wave breaks upon the shore. But as my eyes address the clouds, it comes to me again. The rhythm that I heard before, and the patterns of the rain. Birds migrate above me and high above the trees. I see them all, not one of them sees me. They sing of southern lands where I've never been. The north's the only place I've ever seen. Onward they fly in perfect V formation. They cross the border to their destination, unaware of me and of my fascination. But they have no concept of a nation. And as they fly into the night, wings beat in harmony, fill out all the emptiness inside my melody. Oh, and Sako Yasuma is here. Excellent.
That was a beautiful song.
Why, thank
I
you, thank you.
I hear a strong poet's thread in you. Are you a poet?
I like to think so. I'd like to think that my lyrics can stand up to poetry. I uh, I got into a poetry class in college that you had to, like apply. It was competitive, so I got in. So I guess so. Sure. I guess that makes it official.
Well, for people who write their own songs, all you do is put the lyrics in stanzas, and hey, you wrote a poem.
Yeah, I have some of my songs, particularly ones from Tales from Earth Incorporated. I've read the lyrics at poetry slams and stuff like that.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about poetry, which is, I think, so urgent in these times, is that you can say exactly what you want to say without the likelihood that you'll be censored. You know, you can say it in a way that that on the surface it looks uncensorable, but you said the most censorable subject or the most undesirable thing that maybe major media or corporate America would want to hear anybody say in the public. But you can say it in poetry, and you can just parade it right on a banner across the sky, and people can read it and understand exactly what you're saying, but it's still uncensorable because you didn't say it that way. You didn't say it in the way that somebody would say, "Oh no, oh my God, you can't say that to people. You can't just say that. We can't allow you to say that." But that's the beautiful thing about poetry. Do you ever use poetry that way?
Yeah, I do. And actually, there is a spoken word song also on Tales from Earth Incorporated, which is the song Earth Incorporated.
Yeah.
Maybe before we leave, maybe I'll recite that. So on the album, it's myself and my wife Sherry doing it, and there's some kind of weird, crazy electronic music going on in the background. But you might remember, like when we first did the Tales from Earth Incorporated live show, the actor at the beginning did the monologue, and that was the same exact lyrics pretty much. And
Okay.
and I
Yeah.
ended up setting it to some music, but it's still spoken word.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like I said, I have to give thanks to the art of poetry every day, because without that, a lot of things wouldn't be shared and couldn't have been shared. You speak about Zimbabwe, but the revolt, the Chimurengi Wars in Zimbabwe, were inspired so much by poetry, and that was one of the things that led Thomas Mafumo to his popularity, was that he was creating these songs that were so rich in poetry that people were playing at parties that was inspiring people to revolt, to come together and fight for an independent Zimbabwe. And the lyrics on the surface looked like they were very benign, but because they had such deep poetic meaning, that everybody could hear the lyrics and understand what it was really saying. You know, of course, one of the things about African languages is that they have layers, and so, and it's true with every language. Every language, we probably don't see that about English, but English has layers too. So that you can be speaking English and be saying something, and the people who you want to understand what you're saying will hear it, but nobody else will. you know. So African languages are that way too. They can be saying something so that the people who you want to get that message will hear it very clearly, but nobody else will. And Africa is full of proverbs. African languages are all full of proverbs. And when you say the proverb, it's, if you don't know the proverb, if you don't know the what the proverb is about, then it just sounds like somebody made a poetic statement. But so Thomas Mafumo was able to inspire a whole revolution, you know, through poetry in his songs that he created in that time period. So that's why I say I have to give thanks to poetry, and I know you feel it too, that power of poetry to be able to put that message out there. Were
Yeah.
you involved with theater ever?
I think sixth grade production of Fiddler on the Roof, maybe, and some films, student films,
Yeah,
some amazing acting in some student films. Yeah.
yeah. But music is a form of theater, you know. So, you know, once you go deep into music, then you're kind of involved with acting already because, you know, you have to be doing some acting if you're going to be performing music, you know.
Yeah.
It
Well, Tales
comes
from
with,
Earth Incorporated is like it's like a show, you know, and it's a little theatrical. I mean, and I've made some more kind of skits between some of the songs and things like that. But it's like, you know, as opposed to before when I just be in a band and okay, what are we playing and I put a set list together. It's like a show, you know, that's got a flow to it and everything. So it's a bit like a theatrical production.
yeah, yeah. Tales from the Earth, again, I'm going to tell everybody it's really a special production. So when you see it coming across, and it will come across your views again, check it out. You know, when we get everything open, of course, we will bring it to the live version of God at Riverside, but it'll be in some other theaters and some other houses too, for sure. So definitely check out Tales from the Incorporated. Make sure I put that incorporated in there. And the artists that he assembled for this production, the list just goes on. Really incredible, just immensely talented musicians and artists who were playing the tracks and playing the music and playing the recordings and doing the performance. It's when like I said, I had the pleasure of being part of the performance, but walking on set and seeing some really deep musicians on that set, you know, cats who literally, you know, could all would all be presenting, could all present their own, all hold their own on any stage
Yep.
anywhere. You know, there were that kind of
Yeah.
level of
Feel pretty
musicianship.
blessed to have access to all of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, it was great and a great environment there at Bergen. Bergen has a wonderful campus. I love Bergen. It's something that I've always tell people, and I'll say it again, that a lot of people don't. I'll just put it this way. I'll say, don't sleep on the smaller colleges. Don't sleep on any of the city colleges, any of the community colleges. Don't sleep on those places. The reason why I say don't sleep on them is because they're full of professors and who are really on fire about what they want to say and what they want to do. And they're full of professors who have in this society what somebody would call the dangerous minds. They're the people who have the really powerful ideas. They're in those places. They're the experimenters. They're in those places. Why? Because they didn't get the rubber stamp. They didn't get the rubber stamp that would allow them to be accepted openly in some of the major universities or Ivy League towers. You know, they didn't get that rubber stamp, and but they're doing the powerful work. They're doing the powerful work. They're doing the work that's going to change things. So I tell everybody, don't sleep on anything where you see it says community college or city college. Don't sleep on that because that's what.
Well, we have a graduate of City College in my live audience right now, actually.
There we go.
So, yeah.
Don't sleep on that.
ECNY.
Right? You know, yeah, a lot of the most, I was an art student at one time, and a lot of the most brilliant artists, a lot of most brilliant artists that I ever worked with were teaching at City College. That's where they taught. You know, they were not on any of the big art school faculties, you know, but they were the ones who were creating the really electrical fireworks stuff, you know. So I just want to put that out there.
Amen to that.
Yeah, and Bergen is full of those kind of people. Dan being one of them. Bergen is full of those kind of people. It's got professors there who
Yes.
are really ready to set a light on in your brain.
Yes, I am a music professor there in case anyone didn't figure it out.
There we go. So we're getting near that time where we're going to sign off the air. Is there any last thing that you wanted to say, or comment about, or play before we sign off, or what how you feeling about that, Dan?
Yeah. I'm gonna finish with another song that I wrote in college. It's called Rock Song, and it's another song which has a lot of references to nature. Um, and it's gonna be my closing song because it's about strength and it's about staying strong. And we're in a period here where that really applies pretty obviously to all of us. So I'm gonna make that the closing message of the day.
Great.
If I were not a rock, I'd be just a grain of sand, brushed aside by footsteps as they redistribute land. If I were not a rock, I'd be unable to stand. I'd be blown away like dust in Aristotle's hand, but as it is the wind and rain erode my surface slowly, and I cannot be molded like the clay that lies below me. And I'll stand for centuries while oceans wash away, immune to all decay. If I were not a mountain, I'd be just a little hill, embarrassed by the small size of the ditches I would fill. If I were not a mountain, I'd be unable to stand still. I'd be bulldozed in an instant while I watched my soil spill. As it is, the highway workers must build their roads around me. I cannot be level like foothills that surround me, and I'll stand for centuries while oceans wash away, immune to all decay. If I were not a rock, I'd be just a grain of sand, brushed aside by footsteps as they redistribute land. If I were not a rock, I'd be unable to stand. I'd be blown away like dust in Aristotle's hand, but as it is the wind and rain erode my surface slowly, I cannot be molded like the clay that lies below me. And I'll stand for centuries while oceans wash away, immune to all decay, immune to all decay, immune to all decay, immune to all decay. Thank you,
Yeah.
live audience. Thank you, web audience.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kevin.
Thank you so
Savannah.
much,
Thank you,
Dan.
Goddard Riverside.
Thank you. That was a beautiful song to close with. All these last songs, every last song was beautiful. These last two songs were so gentle. They just took us into a real space of being able to hear what I would say was the other side of Dan Sheehan, because we were hearing the rock and roll influence before, and now we're hearing a softer folk music influence that's real light and upbeat. I hear
Yes,
it.
sir.
It's beautiful. Um, and I want to thank you so much, Dan, for being here with Afro Roots. We look forward to the next time we will bring you back. Hopefully, that next time we will be in the real world where
Yeah.
everybody can see the major production with all the various singers and all the great musicians and all the dancers that you bring together for the Tales from the Earth Incorporated.
Yeah, and
Um,
I'd just like to encourage everyone that hasn't already been to dansheehan.net, DANSHEEHAN.net, to go there and you can check out all the lyrics to the songs and some more information about Tales from Earth Incorporated. But also there is some video from the full scale production of Tales from Earth Incorporated with the drums and the percussion and the horns and the strings and there's sitar and all kinds of world stuff. Uh, so check it out if you haven't checked it out already. And I'm hoping to what I'm trying to do is kind of adapt Tales from Earth to different environments, so it could be done in a more acoustic manner as well, and to do different types of venues, because there's lots of nice kind of like sort of community spaces that are underground that maybe you can't have like the drum set blaring at full blast and everything. So we're gonna do it in a few different kind of iterations.
and if someone wants to get your recordings, where can they get those at?
Well, again, dansheehan.net is the basically the one stop that'll take you to all the other places. So it'll take you to all the social media. It'll take you to Bandcamp. That's the main online store that I use is Bandcamp. And the music's on all the streaming services, the Spotify, the Apple Music, and all that good stuff.
Great.
And Amazon, because I got to throw that out there because I hear that Jeff Bezos is hard for cash these days. So
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for that shout out. um, I want to again thank Dan Sheehan. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to Afro Roots Tuesdays. Again, support Dan Sheehan directly. You'll find the PayPal email address in the chat section. Support him directly, please.
yeah,
For
and it'll all go towards community performances of Tales from Earth Incorporated. What's
Yes.
the next show you guys have in 2 weeks, by the way?
Our next show is going to be on June 9th with Laraji. And Laraji is a very well known, what they call him electronic. In the media, they call him electronic music, but he's far beyond electronic music. He's sort of transcendental uh, and laughter, dance, um, cosmic cosmic music. So you can check out Laraji on the. You can Google him and hear some of his stuff. He's been very popular since Brian Eno put him out in the '70s, and a lot of Brian Eno's really subtle kind of music. He did a
Hmm.
whole album with that and put Laraji out very in a
So he
very
worked
large
with
way.
Brian Eno.
Yeah, he was working with Brian Eno
Oh,
very much through the
awesome.
'70s, and he's Laraji is on his own right now. He's independent, but he is June 9th. So highly recommend that you come back for June 9th for Laraji here at Afro Roots Tuesdays. You can find us on Facebook, Afro Roots Tuesdays on Facebook, and of course you can join the mailing list by sending an email to me at kevinandbira@hotmail.com. We'll put that email address in the chat, and you will be on the mailing list immediately. And we'd love to see you at the future Afro Roots Tuesdays, which will be happening online via Zoom. Yes, there's that email address on the chat right now.